Hi there, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be starting our virtual Sustainachella shortly. We're going to just give everyone a few minutes to join us.
Artlist.io.
So feel free to dance, join us in the fun. And again, we'll be starting shortly.
Music licensing
Oh.
reimagined. Artlist.io.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for joining us at our Sustainachella. And today, our theme is Turtle Talk. We're going to be talking about turtles. Remember, while on Zoom, all participants are going to be muted and videos are going to be disabled. This is to avoid any sort of Zoom bombing. And if you would like to ask any questions, we definitely encourage them. Please use the Q&A box. And remember in the chat to share comments with everyone in the whole group. Make sure that you're selecting the everyone option or the all panelists and attendees option so that we can all see the messages. Today, we're going to be joined by Sarah Teitler from the Miami-Dade County Sea Turtle Conservation Program. She is their Recreational Manager and Outreach and Education Program Coordinator. Samantha Tiffany from our Environmental Resources Division, and she is the Environmental Resources Manager. And we also have Jessica Lorenzo, the Environmental Specialist from the same division. We also have Chrissy Watt joining us from the Turtle Hospital, and she is their lead educator. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll start with Sarah.
All right, thank you, Rolando. Okay. All right, good morning. Thank you all for joining us to talk a little bit more about our sea turtles here in Miami. So again, my name's Sarah Teitler. I'm the Education and Outreach Program Coordinator for the Miami-Dade County Sea Turtle Conservation Program. So we can get started here. What we're going to talk about today is a little bit about our species here in Miami, the threats we see, threats they face, and then a little bit about what you can do to help. Okay, perfect, thank you. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so here in Miami, we see 3 species out of our 7 worldwide. So the species we see here include our loggerhead sea turtle, our green sea turtle, and our leatherback sea turtles. So our loggerhead, they're our most common sea turtle here in Miami. About 90% of our nests in the county are loggerheads, and we can identify them by their tracks or their footprints that they leave in the sand. We can also identify them by their nesting characteristics. So these sea turtles nest from around April to July, and about 90% of the North Atlantic loggerhead sea turtle population nests here in the state of Florida. So we have thousands and thousands of sea turtle loggerhead nests being laid in Florida each year. And they're known for their big skulls or big heads, which they use for their main source of prey. Like they like to eat shellfish and crustaceans, like crabs and lobsters. All right, so next we have our green sea turtle. And our green sea turtle, they make up about 5 to 10% of our nests here in Miami. They nest a little bit later than the loggerheads, so from May through September. They're the largest hard-shell sea turtle species. So as an adult, they can weigh anywhere from 300 to 500 pounds. And their main diet preference is seagrasses and algae. And then lastly, we have our leatherback sea turtles. So these are definitely the most rare species in Miami. They make up anywhere from 1% to 5% of our nests on the beaches. They're our earliest nesters, so we see these sea turtles first on our beaches from mid-March to mid-June. And they are our largest sea turtle species in the world. At adult size, they can weigh anywhere from 1,200 to 2,000 pounds. And they eat really mostly only jellyfish. They lack that hard shell like our other sea turtle species. They have more of a leathery shell, and that allows them to dive to deeper ocean habitats, so their soft shell won't crack under the pressure. All right, now we'll talk about a little bit about some threats that we see here in Miami. Specific to Miami, both natural and unnatural threats. So first, of course, we have our plastic pollution. Everyone sees plastics on the beaches. They make their way from the beach to our ocean, and these plastics never go away. They just break down into smaller and smaller plastic pieces. So plastics are going to be, in our environment for hundreds and hundreds of years. We see sea turtles ingest them. We see them become entrapped or entangled. And this is a major problem that causes sea turtles to strand on our beaches. I think you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So like I said, they can ingest plastics thinking maybe that they're a food source. A plastic bag can look like a jellyfish, or little pieces of microplastic or small plastic pieces can look like fish or other things that sea turtles may eat. They can become entrapped or entangled in larger macroplastics. And sea turtles do need to breathe air, even though they live in the water. They are air-breathing reptiles, so becoming entrapped can lead to drowning. All right, and then we have our chemical pollution. So we see this quite often in our stranded sea turtles who, get washed up on the beach, either injured or dead, and they present these tumors that can get quite large. It's called fibropapillomatosis. And these tumors can present on their eyes, in their mouths, on their flippers. So they can create real problems for these sea turtles for eating, for foraging, for just moving around in the water. And this can be caused by pollution in our waters, either from fertilizer runoff or for other pollutants that are entering our waters. And then we have our more natural predators. So we have both land and sea predators. A lot of people think of, sharks being main predators for sea turtles, but sea turtles face so many more predators before they even enter the water, that sharks, they are almost an insignificant predator to our turtles. So one major predator we see in Miami beaches are these ghost crabs. Ghost crabs can smell a nest hatching right before the turtles emerge onto the beach. And then, as they come out of their nest, the ghost crabs will come and grab the hatchlings. Same thing goes for fire ants. Although they seem small, they gather in large groups and they can go after hatchlings and take them down as they're coming out of their nest as well. Raccoons are another predator that we see on our beaches. They go after the eggs. So they'll smell after a sea turtle mother lays her nest, they can smell those eggs in the sand. They can dig them up and eat the eggs before they even have time to develop or hatch. And then lastly, we see a lot of seabirds, seagulls, pelicans, things like that, that can swoop down and grab the hatchlings before they make it to the water or while they're in that shallow surf zone, trying to swim out into the ocean. All right. Thank you. And then we see a lot of commercial fishing and recreational fishing in Miami that can cause sea turtle strandings as well. So we see these sea turtle hotspots, specifically near fishing piers. Juvenile green sea turtles specifically like to hang out in these areas where fishermen are throwing their bait out to maybe catch a snack, and they're getting snagged by the hooks. They can either get hooked, externally, or actually swallow the hook, and it can become a problem internally for them. As well as ghost fishing gear, a little bit like we talked about with plastics, fishing gear that has been, cut, either line or net that's floating out in the oceans, can entangle them, and they can't get out of that, so it can cause them to drown as well. And then our number one cause for strandings in Miami-Dade County is boat strikes. So last year it was our number one cause. In 2022, we had about 20 adult mature sea turtles that were either injured or killed by boating incidents. And it's really clear when we see, to determine the cause, when we see a boat strike, you can see the clear propeller marks down its shell or its carapace, or on its skull. And it's a very blunt trauma. And this is especially detrimental to sea turtles because of their anatomy. Similar to manatees, sea turtles' lungs are located at the top of their body or right under their carapace. Their carapace or their shell is comprised of strictly bone, and their spine and ribs are part of their shell. So when a boat strikes a sea turtle, it can crack their spine and it can puncture their lung, which makes boat strikes almost always fatal to sea turtles. All right, and then I think we have our last threat being lighting pollution. Lighting pollution is a huge problem here in Miami, specifically for our hatchlings. So sea turtles, both hatchlings and nesting mothers, can become disoriented by artificial lighting. So that bright white light disrupts their ability to either nest or to find the ocean. So sea turtles will instinctively use cues from the moon reflecting off the water, being the brightest light source, to follow and to find their way to the water. But here in Miami, we have these buildings with artificial light along the coastline that is creating a disorientation effect for these hatchlings. They're making their way back towards the buildings, being the brightest light source, rather than to the ocean. On the left here, you can see a photo of a successful hatch out. They'll make their way straight from the hatch hole to east to the ocean. And then on the bottom photo, you can see a disoriented hatch out where they're kind of going every which way along the beach. They can travel for long distances, exhausting themselves. They can end up in the dunes. They can end up on beachfront properties, in swimming pools, in sewers, in the street. And we usually find them either dead from dehydration, exhaustion, or eaten by a predator. So in 2022, last season, we finished the season with about 686 nests. 42% of these nests hatched out and were disoriented or turned around back towards the buildings. This is the highest disorientation rate in all of Florida. So the average disorientation rate for Florida is about 10%. We consistently are seeing between 40 and 50% of our nests disorienting back towards the lighting in Miami. So for Miami lighting, we can see, this sky view image of the state of Florida. That's Miami down, in the southeast. We are the brightest coastline in the state of Florida, and it's a lot of those bright fluorescent lights. All right, so thank you. So what can we do to help? So specifically for lighting, we recommend turtle safe lighting. So we want to minimize direct lighting effects from coastal properties, both interior lights and exterior lights. So the lights, that you put on inside your condo, inside a hotel, inside a commercial business. We want to limit those lights as much as possible, as well as the exterior lights. During sea turtle season, which is March 1st through October 31st, we want to limit any lighting on the beach at night. So that includes using flashlights on the beach, having beach fires, using fireworks, things like that can all be disruptive and disorienting towards nesting sea turtles or hatching sea turtles. So for our turtle safe lighting, we recommend lighting that are low to the ground, so it doesn't project outward. And even better is having a shield on top of your light, so it projects even further down to the ground instead of out towards the water. And then we recommend longer wavelengths. So red lights, amber lights, they're not as disorienting towards sea turtles as white fluorescent lights. And then, we want to work with the City of Miami Beach to help implement these turtle-friendly lighting solutions in our county here. Right. And then, of course, just education and conservation. So educate others on what you learned here today. Do something small every day to help make a difference. We participate in beach cleanups and during monthly events. We do beach cleanups at Holliver Park, at Crandon Park. Just clean up your local beach, and just small things make a difference. Support conservation efforts, conservation programs. Always try to get involved with events like this is great. And then speak up to local commissioners. If you're a part of a beachfront property, speak to your HOA board members about how harmful lighting can be and how you want to see a change here in Miami. And then lastly, we just have our contact information here for you. So we operate the Sea Turtle Conservation Program Stranding Line. So if you ever come across a sea turtle that is sick, injured, or disoriented, you can always call us. The number is listed here. If we can't be reached, leave us a voicemail. We'll get back to you. I've also put the FWC Wildlife Alert Hotline. FWC, or Florida Fish and Wildlife, they're the wildlife enforcement agency that are also able to respond to these events. So I listed their number here as well. And then if you're interested in any outreach or educational programs, whether virtual, in person, if you're interested in hatchling releases, beach cleanups, classroom education programs, my contact information is here, sarah.teitler@miamidade.gov. And then, of course, you can always follow us on Instagram for our events and just fun messages about our sea turtles. So Instagram and Facebook, it is Miami-Dade Sea Turtles. And I want to thank you all again for coming and listening.
Thank you for joining us today, Sarah.
Thank you.
That was a fabulous presentation.
Thank you.
So moving forward, we're going to have Samantha now presenting from the city.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. My name is Samantha Tiffany, and I'm the Environmental Resources Manager within the Environmental Resources Management Division. I'm also joined here by one of our environmental specialists, Jessica Lorenzo, and we are excited to speak with you all today and provide some information regarding the city's sea turtle nesting protection ordinance and how we work to protect them, and especially after hearing Sarah present on some of the threats facing sea turtles. So the purpose of our nesting protection ordinance is to reduce the impacts of artificial coastal lighting on threatened and endangered sea turtles that nest on the city's beaches. And we do that by restricting artificial lighting and other activities that can disorient sea turtle hatchlings. So the ordinance defines the dates for nesting season in Miami Beach. It establishes prohibited activities that are disruptive to marine turtles. It also establishes lighting standards for new, permitted, and existing development, and it establishes lighting standards for publicly owned lighting, like our parks, and also the necessary enforcement and penalties. So marine turtle nesting season in Miami Beach begins April 1st and ends on October 31st. As Sarah mentioned, leatherback sea turtles tend to nest a bit earlier. So we are accounting for that by starting it a bit earlier in Miami Beach. And so that's kind of one of the ways that we are trying to protect them. And so we adopted this ordinance, as I said, to minimize the impact of artificial lighting on hatchlings and nesting sea turtles. We require light management on private and public lands to prevent light pollution that is problematic for these sea turtles and other nocturnal animals. As you know, light pollution can cause hatchlings to crawl towards land rather than towards the ocean, which is a big issue. And now I'll go ahead and hand it off to Jessica to get into some of the ordinance's requirements.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica, and I'm going to go over some of the prohibited activities listed under the city's ordinance. So the ordinance mainly focuses on the different lighting standards required during marine turtle nesting season. Usually they're like the ones recommended by Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. However, it also touches on other restrictions like activities that are prohibited at nighttime. So for example, the operation of motorized vehicles, campfires and bonfires, and firework displays are all prohibited activities. There are some exceptions. I know, like if these activities have been authorized from by the FDP, then we would allow it, but however, without prior authorization, they are prohibited. The ordinance also addresses special events, which require to be reviewed and permitted by FDP. And then it goes into lighting standards for new developments, existing developments, and publicly owned lighting, like Samantha mentioned. So for lighting standards for new developments, they're required to be followed by all public and private properties doing new constructions or any renovations exceeding 50% of the value of the structure located east of the CCCL. And then for those of you who aren't familiar with what the CCCL is, it's the Coastal Construction Control Line. This line was determined by FDP, but in general, it just includes all the beachfront properties along the coast. And then lighting standards for existing developments, these must be followed by existing structures. So hotels, condos, restaurants, etc., also located east of the CCCL, and that can be seen from the beachfront. And then publicly owned lighting standards are also required to be followed by the city, county, or state for streetlights, parks, parking facilities, and walkways. And then like how Sarah went over some of the sea turtle safe lighting options, which are in line with our ordinance. But pretty much in general, they have to make sure that they have replacement of lamps to red, orange, or amber LEDs. They need to install shields to block light visible from the beach, install fixtures that are direct light down and away from the beach. They should be disconnecting and turning off lights when they're not needed, and then installing window tints, film to minimize interior light. Next slide. So, if you guys are ever taking a stroll out on the beach at night and, document bright lights visible from the beach, please report it to our city's code compliance department at the number shown on the slide. We're working to continue tackling lighting violations to hopefully reduce the amount of disorientation on our beaches. So, in addition, if you may also contact the Environment and Sustainability Department with any lighting questions or concerns. So I recommend everyone takes a picture of this slide to keep it on your phone. So when you're out there, you have the numbers on hand. I'll give everyone a few seconds. Thank you. And then also, Sarah also shares some of these contacts, but if you ever encounter a sea turtle that needs help, this means like a vandalized nest, an injured turtle, a disoriented turtle that you might document like in the street or in the road, or it's stuck somewhere and can't get out, please call the Florida Fish and Wildlife 24-hour wildlife alert. You can also contact the Miami-Dade County Sea Turtle Alert Hotline, like Sarah mentioned, or the Miami Beach Police Department. And then, go ahead and take a picture of this slide as well, so you can have it in your phone. You ever encounter an injured sea turtle. And then just as a reminder, you cannot pick up or touch any sea turtles. Always follow directions that are advised by like an FWC officer or sea turtle specialist, like while you're on the call with them. So in addition to the Sea Turtle Nesting Protection Ordinance, the city has also dedicated other efforts into protecting sea turtles. So for example, the Environmental Resources Division, we review special events held on the beachfront to make sure that they're following FWC's marine turtle protection special event conditions during sea turtle nesting season. Our division also conducts annual training for the city's code compliance department on multiple environmental ordinances, including the Turtle Nesting Protection Ordinance. We go over what FWC's lighting recommendations are, which are in line with our standards, and then we teach our compliance staff on what to look out for when they're in the field. And then lastly, our division conducts environmental plan reviews for projects by permitted through the building department. And then during these reviews, we're looking out for projects that are located east of the CCCL to make sure that they're in compliance with our turtle nesting protection ordinance. And so now I will pass it over to Rolando, who will continue going over some of the other city efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, so some of the other city efforts that we have and that we participate in is that we will send out sea turtle letters to properties to the CCCL, informing them and advising them of the upcoming sea turtle nesting season. We also have a social media campaign. On social media every Tuesday, you can expect to see a Turtle Tuesday post. So this is a post where we're educating the public on some information about the sea turtle, proper procedures to follow if you come into contact with a sea turtle. For example, if they're injured or if their hatchling is disoriented. And we also share these communications through our newsletter. We also held our first ever Miami Beach Turtle Fest this year. And the intention with this event was to make it an annual occurrence where city residents are able to learn more about sea turtles. So we worked closely with various groups in the community, such as the Miami-Dade County's Sea Turtle Conservation Program and other local nonprofits in an endeavor to educate the residents about turtles, the human influence on their well-being, and methods to safeguard their existence. And we also included activations at this event, such as a beach cleanup, a tree giveaway. We had a live turtle. And with these activations, for example, at the beach cleanup, we were able to take out 815 pounds of marine debris from getting into the ocean. Another thing that the city has that indirectly affects these turtles, but that we're also very proud of, is our Plastic-Free Miami Beach program, which is aimed to showcase businesses that have taken action to reduce plastic in their establishment and to help organizations learn and implement best practices in the area of environmental stewardship. So this is a voluntary program for businesses, and depending on the amount of plastic that they're eliminating, they will fall into these three different categories of level 1, 2, and 3. So does anyone have any questions? Feel free to leave them in the Q&A box or put them in the chat, and we'll be answering them throughout the rest of the presentation. Now moving forward, we'll have Chrissy leading the presentation on the Turtle Hospital.
Hello, welcome. My name is Chrissy, and I've been with the Turtle Hospital for almost 10 years now, where we rescue, rehabilitate, and release sea turtles back to the wild. That is our main goal here at the hospital. All right, next. So the human impacts, like they were saying earlier, you get marine debris. Turtles are kind of like toddlers. If they see something in the ocean, they're going to try to eat it. They don't know that our trash is not their food. They continually come in with impactions. Microplastics are a big thing with the baby turtles. The first 2 years of life, they live at the Sargasso seaweed patches. And those patches are their nurseries for, bivalves, jellyfish, things like that. And they will actually eat all that stuff, and they get an impaction. Then they come to us. We'll give them some medication, hopefully get them back out to the wild. Next. So here's a little gumbo here. Oh, sorry. He had over 50 pieces of microplastic. It was actually 54 pieces. He's just a little tiny juvenile hawksbill turtle that we had come in between post-hatching and juvenile. It was somewhere in there. And yeah, final count was 55 pieces of microplastic out of the turtle. If they can eat it, they will. They just don't know our trash is not their food. Next. The biggest thing we treat here at the Turtle Hospital are the fibropapilloma tumors here. When the turtles are swimming in toxic grass beds, swimming in toxic water due to pollution from pesticides, fertilizers, oil spills, plastics, suntan lotions, it goes in the grass beds, the turtles eat it, and it breaks down their immune system, and they break out into a herpes-like virus. And it grows around their eyes so they can't see, mouths can't eat, and flippers, they can't swim. And as long as those tumors on the outside, we usually can help the turtles by doing surgeries with using a CO2 laser. And each turtle will go through numerous surgeries. You can see at the bottom there, if they have internal tumors, usually there's not a lot you could do for them, but we are the state-of-the-art hospital. We will do everything we can to save a turtle. Every turtle is very important to us. Next. Here's our largest tumor we ever had. It was a 14.2 pound tumor on a loggerhead turtle. And usually we don't see loggerheads that come with it, but this turtle had a very large tumor. Unfortunately, the turtle did not make it. They do debilitate the turtles in every which way, where can't swim with a tumor that big, so they're going to end up drowning eventually. So we did everything we could to save the turtle, but unfortunately, the turtle did not make it. Boat strikes, like they were saying before, you'll see propeller strikes. We actually had the original turtle here at the Turtle Hospital on your right, the one in the box by itself, was the original bubble butt. Came to us in 1989. Sometimes air and gases can get trapped underneath their shell, and they can't dive down for their food, so they cannot be returned back to the wild due to these injuries. They also become paralyzed because their spinal cord, like she said, is connected to the shell. And what we do from is attach lead weights to their shell. But these turtles that cannot go back to the wild, they actually help save the other turtles. They can be an ambassador of their species, so they can go to another zoo or aquarium and educate the public about sea turtle awareness. And they also are blood donors here. Now, it's usually species to species. We do blood cross matches, and they are doing blood studies here to see if they have more types like we do. Next. So we are a fully functioning hospital. The turtle on the surgery table there, well, he's just suffering from an impaction because he's quite stuffed. But in the back corner there, that is a CO2 laser that we have at our hospital here. And our tables, we've treated all 5 of the species here at the hospital that you find in Florida waters. Next. This turtle actually came in with a spear in its neck. It did make it and go back to the wild. But like I said, we are a fully operational hospital, and we work with turtles on a daily basis. Some of you may have heard of the turtle license plate. Well, the turtle license plate, if you get one, all that money gets generated into a pool, and it goes out to grant funds to help the sea turtle. So our CO2 laser that we have to remove the tumors, and that we got a new X-ray table as well in the past year. So thank you for all those who actually buy the turtle license plate here in the state of Florida. It does go to helping the sea turtles. Next.
And one quick thing to mention, that the city of Miami Beach was actually awarded $13,550 to launch a sea turtle lighting education campaign. Again, also thanks to the license plate grant.
Next. So we have individual tanks here. That's like their own personal hospital bed. They go through different stages of care. You might see some water levels very shallow in there. That's because if they just need more rest, we don't want them to, have to exert themselves to come to the surface. So feeding time in the morning is quite a big deal around here. In the back, the turtle in the tub is actually going through a nebulizer treatment. If they have lung infections, they'll have to have nebulizer treatments. And so they get the little cone on their head, and they breathe in a mist of medication, and it helps the turtles get better. So we can get it back out to the wild a little bit sooner. Next. We also have this big, huge 100,000-gallon swimming pool that is fed by the bay. It was the original swimming pool that was built with our old motel that is on the property, and we turned it into a Turtle Hospital. This houses about 23 turtles that cannot be released back to the wild due to their injuries currently. And so it is fed from the ocean. So there are holes on the side and where the water comes in, and other things also come in with it. So it's more like a natural environment. So there are fish in there that get really big. There is no natural predators for the fish. So the fish get really big. Then we got to fish them out, kind of throw them back in the ocean. But then we've had eels and octopus and seahorses and lobsters in there. Mainly, it's mostly green turtles in there. I do have one loggerhead. Loggerheads tend to be territorial and aggressive. You cannot really put two loggerheads together. However, there are some instances where you can, but we find that our loggerheads tend to be territorial and aggressive, so you can only have one in with the other species. Since sea turtles are not really sociable animals, by rule, they'll find a feeding spot. Green turtles like to forage on grass beds. We actually been going out and pulling up grass beds, but normally our main diet is romaine lettuce, squid, fish, and peppers and cucumbers. And sometimes the loggerheads, they like their lobster tails. They can be very picky eaters sometimes. Next. So what ways can you help the turtles? Of course, by donating to nonprofit organizations like us and other ones are out there. Again, participating in cleanup efforts like beach cleanups and, recycling plastics and stuff like that. And then obeying all boating regulations because the turtles are our future here. They do nest on our beaches. They come back to that natal beach they were born from. So it's very important to protect these beaches that they come back to. Next. One way we also help and give back to the public is we also offer virtual classes anywhere in the world, and it is free to their classroom. It doesn't cost the teachers anything. This is the way we do it. We send out them a little letter to this on how we help them and we educate the schools all around the world, because some kids out in the West will never see a sea turtle. So we give it to them straight here from the Turtle Hospital and tell them how they can help the turtles by reducing their plastics and straws and plastic bags and just being more conscious about our environment.
Great. Thank you so much, Chrissy. That was a fabulous presentation as well. I'm so thankful to all our presenters today. We're going to just take a quick moment to participate in a quick poll. I'm asking everyone to poll now. It's just about 5 questions. The questions we're asking are, how many species of sea turtles nest in Miami-Dade County? We're asking you to select all of the threats to sea turtles that you learned of today. Select all of the ways that residents can help sea turtles. And then we have 2 true or false questions. True or false, sea turtle nesting season runs from April 1st through October 31st. And then the last true or false is, if you see a lost baby turtle, can you pick it up? Can you pick them up and place them back by the water? I'm just going to give about 1 more minute for everyone to participate. And we'll be sharing some upcoming events that you can stop by and claim your prize at. All right, it looks like things are slowing down, so I'll go ahead and end the poll. Thank you everyone for participating. So over here, we just wanted to share some of our upcoming events. We have our household hazardous waste drop-off and paper shred-a-thon. So if you have any papers that you need to safely dispose of, or household chemicals such as detergent, fertilizer, used oil, old paint, insecticides, we have a full list of what you can bring on our website. You can visit mbrisingabove.com/HHW. That's HHW for household hazardous waste. And you can read that full list. We also have our International Coastal Cleanup at the Radisson Hotel. If you're interested in volunteering and getting involved, you can visit our link, which is tinyurl.com/ and B, coastal cleanup. It's going to be on Saturday, September 16th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then right after, we're going to be doing an after party sponsored by Bubbly Sparkling Water. And we still have a few more minutes. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for participating. Again, as a reminder, these are the numbers that you can contact if you ever happen to see a sea turtle that's lost and disoriented and you want to help them out. You know, make sure you're helping them out the right way and that you're not grabbing them. And as I was trying to get to, we have a few extra minutes, so I think we can make sure that our questions are being answered. I'll go through the Q&A, and if there are any questions that anyone wants to step up and speak about, any of our panelists, by all means, please feel free to answer. One of the questions is, how is there assistance provided, if any, if needed, for a hatchling in the evening at Miami Beach?
I can go ahead and jump in here. So for if it's in the evening and you need assistance, you can call one of the numbers that is on the screen. I would start first with FWC, Florida Fish and Wildlife, since they are staffed 24 hours. And then if not, then you can go on to Miami-Dade County and see, and then if not, like our police department. But either way, like we will all work together to make sure that this, whatever event is happening gets addressed. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you, Sam. So an anonymous attendee also asked, is there evidence that feral cats impact sea turtles through predation or other means?
I can answer that. We do see feral cats, predating sea turtles when they do make it into the dune system sometimes. That is a problem that we see, but it's not too often. It just, in some cases we do see that, specifically in beach parks, we see it like all over.
Okay, so another question we have is, if we see a turtle in need of assistance or etc., how do we contact by email or digitally? The only methods offered are phone numbers.
So our phone number, that 305-310-3046, as well as that second number, 786-719-6836. Those are cell phone, iPhone lines. So you can also text. You can text us any information that you may need to send, as well as our email address was listed. My email is sarah.teitler@miamidade.gov, and I can put that in the chat again.
Thank you, Sarah. We also have another question that came from Rui. Is the plastic-free 305 program for restaurants who want to participate and stop using single-use plastics, or is Miami-Dade enforcing restaurants by the beach to go into the single-use practice? And shouldn't they enforce it? So to speak on this part, because I'm a little bit familiar with the plastic-free 305 program, this isn't something that's being necessarily enforced. It is a voluntary program like Plastic-Free Miami Beach. So I hope that answers your question. All right. Oh, so we have another question here for Chrissy. For turtles found with tumors, are their numbers found more often in specific parts of the state than others?
Yes, I believe so. We get a lot of the green juveniles that come to us down here in the Keys. There's a lot of grass beds. They're going to be hanging around grass beds. And the water runoff down here goes straight into the ocean, and we're a warmer temperature year round. Whereas on the east side of the state of Florida, you got the rolling waves, the tides, longer beaches that filters out some of that runoff that goes into the ocean. So we do see a lot of our turtles down here that are really heavily loaded with the tumors on them. Sometimes over 10% of their body weight will actually be in tumors. I used to volunteer for 16 years almost in Brevard County, which is just north of you guys by a few hours. And I'd see turtles up there with tumors, but I've been down here in the Keys almost 10 years working with the turtles, and the amount of turtles we get down here with the tumors is overwhelming. It's heartbreaking to see all the turtles we get with the tumors on them here in the Keys.
Thank you for sharing, Christy. We have another question from Alfredo. Why is lighting not better regulated like in Broward and other counties?
Is that for me?
Oh, no, just open-ended question for any of the panelists.
So I can jump in here. So we are working, to regulate lighting as much as possible, which is why we have our turtle nesting protection ordinance, as it details specific lighting requirements and standards for new development, existing development, permanent development, all of it. So that's really the way that we are working to enforce that. And we also work with our code compliance department to really enforce that ordinance, right? So for properties that are located on the beachfront or east of that CCCL, the coastal construction control line that Jessica was mentioning earlier.
And we have one more question from David. Does lighting issues also apply to individual condo units?
So yes, they do apply to both public and private, privately owned properties. So, as long as they are located east of that CCCL or on the beachfront, or have the potential to, I guess, impact the beach or be where their lighting would be visible from the beach.
Thank you, Sam. And thank you again to all our panelists. Thank you for everyone who was participating today. We really appreciate all your attendance. And we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a totally awesome day.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.